Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. You can't see her, right? Oh, now you can't see her. I was just about to say, my cat is also here to say hello. She really doesn't like to be held. Anyways, welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of my quilted jacket that I was doing last week. This is what we did in part 1. So we finished the front pieces with the intricate pockets, like as you can see right here, which took a bit longer than anticipated, which is why we now have part 2, which obviously if you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'll link it up here. You should definitely watch that first before this one. Today we're gonna put the jacket together and hopefully finish it. I already have a plan for everything, so let's hope that this is gonna be done more smoothly than last episode. And I'm super excited to finally finish this jacket because I think it's gonna be really, really cool. Yeah, I decided to put elastic in the hood and also in the sleeves and maybe in the back hem, and I'm gonna show you how I do all of that. So let's start. So what I wanted to finish first before putting the jacket together is the hood. So I have the 2 hood pieces right here that we're gonna put together now. This is pretty straightforward. I have a dart in this piece of the hood, and then we also have the hood middle section. So we're just gonna close the dart first. I like to just mark the dart lines, the legs, I guess, on the wrong side of the fabric, which I already did, as you can see right here. And then I'm gonna close it just as usual, putting right sides together like this and stitching on top of the marked lines. Now that that's done, we're gonna iron the seam allowance towards the middle section of the hood. Just using a little bit of steam as to not press down the fluffiness of this fabric too much. And now we can go ahead and put the hood middle section in, and you're gonna find all of these different notches in the hood middle section. You just want to line these up with the notches on the hood part and sew this in here, right sides together, and the other one on here. And then we're gonna make it look really nice with some bias binding on the inside. So now done with that, I am actually going to iron the seam allowance with the binding to either side of the hood middle section, and then I'm going to iron it all the way around towards the same side as well. And to iron round seams like that, I like to use my self-made tailor's ham. I also made a video on that, so if you're interested, you can click up here. Okay, that's the hood. And we're not going to put binding on this side yet because this is going to get attached right here to the button tape as well, which is also going to have binding. So basically, that's the last thing that we're going to do. Put one last binding on the outer edge all around the jacket. So from the hem over the button tape to the hood and back down. So we're just going to leave that open still. But here we're going to have a hole for the elastic for our tunnel around the hood part. So we're gonna prepare that eyelet for that here. The placement you're gonna find on your pattern piece, which I'm just gonna copy out. And as per usual, always use the eyelet's description on how to put them in, because they're all a little different. What you have to do for all of them is make a hole that fits the inner diameter of the eyelet so that you can push it through. And it's the best to not hole punch your fabric because it's easier to fray if you do that, but to use something like this all right here and to just push the fibers away basically, and to make room for the eyelet like this. And now you can put your eyelet through there. I'm gonna use a 7mm diameter eyelet. I think that's gonna be enough for the elastic, which is just a small elastic, so it should be fine. Okay, this is what it looks like. And what I'm gonna do now is actually add a layer of bias binding, folded open, apart from on one side. So I'm gonna fold this open like this. and add this with the folded side pointing to the inside of the hood, like this, and stitch it very closely to the edge onto the hood right here. I'm gonna draw on just around here where I want to stitch, because this is gonna get important later with the eyelet being in the middle. So remember, here is 1 centimeter seam allowance on here, so this will be bound with the bias binding here. So I want to mimic this distance over here with the stitching line, and if I open this up like this, I have 3 centimeters, not quite, 2.5 centimeters from this edge where the stitching line will end up being, right here, and this will go right at the edge of the eyelet, which obviously would not look nice. So I will have to fake this stitching line here and then somewhat ease it back into this corner here, and the bias binding will continue down here into the button tape. So to be able to do that, we have 2 options. Just gonna open this flat up. Option number 1, which is hopefully the one that will work, is put this side right here, just push a bit inwards, because this will still be on the inside and caught by the stitching of the bias binding. I don't want to push it too much towards the inside, just to be sure. And then number 2 is to unfold this edge right here just a tiny bit and give it a bit more space, like this, to be able to sew right where I drew the line underneath it, as we have a little bit of room right here. And then I can just continue this bias tape all the way around and do exactly the same on the outside. And this should end up being quite a nice, neat finish if I sew right on top here. And do exactly the same on the other side. I'm gonna draw on. Also, once I'm done with stitching it down here, I'm also gonna stitch into the seam allowance over there just to fix it in place, because then we can put the elastic in this tunnel already, which we have to feed through here, all around, and then into here or out there as well. So let's go. Okay, so now we can just cut this down to the curve. This will be covered up anyways, and I'm gonna give this iron. Okay. Now, as I was sewing, I was thinking that it's probably easiest to just put the elastic in while this edge is still open, because then you don't have to do the safety pin thing. Well, it's closed now. So maybe do that before you close this if you want to. So I have this elastic right here, this like 3mm round elastic, and I'm just gonna measure, let's do 15 centimeters from this opening all the way around without pulling it, because you want to have the non-pulled hood as your default, basically. So you want to have an elastic that is that length as well. So just gonna give you the complete measurement. 100 centimeters on the spot. That's kind of cool. So grab a safety pin, push this elastic through the tunnel as per usual. Also, by the way, I'm getting a microphone today, so maybe in the middle of this video the audio quality will just upgrade a bunch. So just so that you're not going to be confused, or I'm just going to do that from next video on. Let's see. Let's hope the microphone is as good as I expect it to be. I'm just going to feed my elastic through the eyelet, which is very easy. And now I have stoppers. These really cute brown ones that I just got. I got these as well, which I'm going to put in here and then melt the edge and flatten it so that it stops this metal thing here. So let's see if that works. Let's knot it. I also have my window open here, so always be careful with things like this. Okay. And now this can't escape anymore and looks nice. You can't see here. And now we can start to put the jacket together. So I grabbed the front pieces right here, and we're gonna put the front raglan sleeves on. These right here. So these basically get sewn onto here like this. So we're just gonna put right sides together, and there are also notches right here that we're just gonna add up and then just sew this in place and sew this in place, this here. And I'm also gonna bind the inside seam just to clean everything up, which is something that I'm gonna do throughout this whole project. If I don't say anything else, I am binding the edges. Now this is what it looks like on the inside. We're gonna iron the seam allowance towards the sleeves. And we're gonna copy this with the back piece, and I'll be back, no pun intended, when that's sewn together. So just do exactly the same, but with the back sleeve onto the back piece. This is the back piece now all done. As you can see, it looks really nicely. Before we continue, we are gonna finish the tunnel here in the waistline. So everything that I marked right here is obviously going to be marked already on the pattern, the final pattern, that I'm going to link you down in the description below and also in the pinned comment. As per usual, if you're interested, we are gonna put eyelets around 5 centimeters below the waistline is where this tunnel is, and we're gonna put eyelets in the tunnel so we can use it, obviously. So before we're gonna put everything together, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, these are in. And now I'm gonna put, just as I did with the hood, the bias binding, just not folded on itself, on top here. And I'm trying to put it as neatly as possible onto the middle here, because I'm gonna sew right here closely to the edge and then also on the bottom. So that's pretty nice. It's very much in the middle, which I'm really happy about. I'm just gonna give this an iron and then I'm gonna feed the elastic through just as I did with the hood. And we're gonna need, for this piece, also 100 centimeters. Okay, now we can start putting everything together. This just is the usual way of putting right sides together. I'm gonna start with the shoulder seams, putting right sides together and stitching all the way down to the sleeves and into the neck cutout right here, and do the same on the other side, and then also putting bias binding on it. I am gonna iron the seam here towards the back. Before we're gonna put the side seams together and make this whole jacket wearable, and we can try it on for the first time, I want to put a tunnel also here in the hem of the sleeve, and the eyelets where you're gonna pull on, or where the elastic which you're gonna pull on comes out, is gonna sit right in the middle of your back sleeve. So this is the back sleeve. So it's gonna be in the middle right here. I'm just gonna put it like right in the middle. So this is comparable with the slit in shirt sleeve hems, which is also sitting like somewhere here on the outside of your wrist, which is gonna be the middle of your back sleeve. And as this is just a two-parted sleeve, we don't have any seams, so it's gonna be somewhere in the middle. Let's measure. For the placement, again, this will all be marked in the final pattern that you can get at the link down below, so you're not gonna have to do all of this measuring. And on the inside, we can already mark the placement for our tunnel. So I just put these in quickly off camera. And now we can go ahead and put the side seams together. Just as per usual, we're gonna put right sides together like this. Match up the seam under the arm and make sure that the seam allowance and the binding is pointing into the sleeve. This can be a bit tricky once we're binding the seam as well. Here in the hem, you're gonna find 2 notches because we're gonna have a small, tiny little baby slit right here. So we're only gonna start sewing from the notch on, and just as normal, we're gonna sew right towards the hem, and we're gonna repeat this on the other side and bind this edge as well. So you might see that the audio quality has improved greatly. I got the mic and we can continue on with this project. So I ran out of bias binding yesterday, so I went ahead and made new one. I totally forgot where I left off. I think I was sewing the side seams together and that's when I ran out. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'll be back once the jacket is wearable. Side seam is closed now. We're gonna iron the side seam as per usual towards the back. It looks promising. So we're gonna continue with our tunnels here in the sleeve hems now. And what we're gonna do for them is pretty similar to what we did before, with the only difference of putting the elastic in before we close the other side, just because we would have to leave one end open and it's just not nice to work like that, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna start in the side seam and then go around and let it overlap a tiny bit. So I'm just gonna orientate myself again at the upper line that I already drew. Closely sew to this edge right here, so which is right on that line. Leaving this side open here, then we're gonna put the elastic in and then close this by stitching into the seam allowance so that once we bind the hem of this, it will get fixed into place. Okay, so now I can basically put an elastic in already. That's 75 centimeters. So that means basically that you're gonna need 3.5 meters. I bought 4 meters, thank God. Now we can just feed this through the holes here and then from the inside back out and put this in between here. Okay, so I have the sleeves ready and I'm gonna do the same here that I already prepared on this side, which is putting 2 elastics into one of these stoppers, which is really hard, so I'm gonna try my best. Obviously, if you have enough, which I wasn't able to because they only had 6 of these in the store, you'll need 8. Same goes to these tiny metal pieces here. You obviously don't have the struggle, you can just put 2 on both ends. So sleeves are done. We are gonna be able to attach the hood now. Been waiting for this. Nothing else than what we've been doing all the time, putting right sides together, matching all of the notches. So the center back, then the middle hood section seam should match up with the back sleeve seam. So put the seam allowances to where you ironed them previously. They should be in the same direction towards the sleeve. Then the shoulder seam should match up with the dart. These should nest, so going in the opposite directions. And then you can just put this towards the center front like this. So we're going to sew this and then also put binding on. Okay, the second to last step is putting the button tape on here. So just gonna grab this piece and you're gonna find notches on the top which mark the seam where you attach the hood, and I am gonna match up that with the seam and fold the seam allowance into the hood and then match it up with the hem and match up all of the notches in between. Also make sure here at this pocket that you also catch the pocket itself, because we want to fix that into the seam so it's not gonna, you know, move around and it stays put. And now we can stitch this and also put binding there. Okay, now we can go ahead and iron the seam towards the button tape. And we can go ahead and put the last binding around the whole jacket. I'm gonna start in the center back, which I marked with a notch, and then I'm gonna go around here. Before we do that, we have to do something to these corners here, because we want the binding to meet on the middle and not to overlap. We need to cut the seam allowance down here so it goes right from the stitching line into this curve. So I'm gonna do this one after the other and you can see what I'm doing. So just like this. Just like this, and I'm gonna do the same to the other side, like this. And once we put binding on, it's gonna meet in the middle basically here. And once I reach the corner here, this will be looking like this. And then once here, I will stitch towards there, so here, and then make a corner with this piece right here. So it's gonna overlap like this, and then do the same on this side again. So it's gonna have this 90-degree angle there. But this is gonna happen more or less automatically once you're stitching this on, and I'm gonna show you on the machine how, or like why that's gonna happen automatically. And I'm gonna go all around here and then also here into the hood and down the other side, and gonna meet in the center back again. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I am super excited to show you this jacket as I already tried it on and I love it so much. So thank God I have a spring jacket now, because it's like this really weird temperature of not coat but not no jacket, so an in between was desperately needed, and now I have it, so I'm super happy about that. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel down below and also ring the bell so you'll get notified every time that I post. And in between my uploads, I always post on Sundays. You should definitely check out my Instagram that has the same handle as here on my YouTube, because I am showing you lots of tips and tricks in my reels that I am uploading. So if you wanna see something on the go, something quick that you can learn from, go ahead and check out my Instagram and all of my other social media. If you want to support me, the most direct way is to just buy the pattern or to check out my Etsy store in general. Link is down below as per usual, and also in the linked comment. If you're interested in this pattern in particular, this is a one-size-fits-all pattern. Obviously it fits differently on different body sizes. So on me it's very oversized, but I'm also an XSS usually in my patterns, so you can kind of, you know, see how the pattern will look on you, but it definitely fits all of my size, like my whole size range that I have on my Etsy store, so you should be fine. And obviously I always recommend making a mock-up so you see if you need to change anything before sewing it out of your fashion fabric. So thank you so much, and I'm gonna see you next Sunday. Bye guys!